Welcome to the Irish Expat Podcast. In today's bonus episode, we'll be covering Lake Como. We'll be chatting about why we went to Lake Como, transport, accommodation, food and fun, the value for money, and some overall tips from Italian residents if you're planning on visiting Italy. Hi, I'm Jane.
And I'm Cormac.
And welcome to the Irish Expat Podcast. We've been on the road for over a year, travelling the length and breadth of Italy.
Season 1 is all about our travels from the southern city of Naples to Lake Garda in the north.
We'll be giving our best tips and tricks and talking about our highlights and mistakes.
And how we've ended up moving to Florence.
Make sure you're subscribed, and if you like this episode, then please give us a 5-star review. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at altlivin and find out more about us on altlivin.com. Well, how are you?
How are you, Jane?
Another bonus episode.
Back again.
And why is it a bonus episode?
Because it's short as hell.
Yeah, we only stayed there for 2 nights. So
oh, yes.
We don't have a lot of info, but we'll give you...
We saw 2 towns.
We did see 2 towns, so it's not like the big Lake Garda episode.
Nope.
If you haven't listened to that, then please go and listen to it. But there's a reason why we've been to Lake Garda so many times. And why we've only been to Lake Como once.
Because we love Lake Garda?
Yes. And maybe we don't love Lake Como as
Not
much.
as much, no.
So to talk about some fun facts first, Lake Como supposedly has its very own lake monster called Lario. So instead of Nessie, it's Lario. Mussolini was executed on its shores in 1945, which I did not know about before we went. And now I'm absolutely raging because I wasn't planning a return to Lake Como, but now I'm like, I really want to go to that. So
yeah, because they have like a site basically where the plaque is there where he was hung.
Yeah, so that'd be
mad.
That'd be pretty cool.
Lake Como is also the capital of Italy's silk production.
Yeah, so apparently some Italians robbed some Chinese monks back in the 6th century.
Yeah,
so that's good crack.
That's what happens. And well, of course, the amount of A-listers the world knows that have come to Lake Como and stayed, such as George Clooney, Madonna, Richard Branson, Sylvester Stallone, Gianni Versace, and soccer legend Ronaldinho.
Yeah, well, we did see George Clooney's house.
We did, yeah. It's on the way up from the town of Como up the lake, so... I'm sure there was plenty of other houses that we saw. Mm-hmm. One of my favorites was the house where they filmed some of the Casino Royale movies, the James Bond movies.
Oh,
they were that was really cool. Yeah. It was the exact house. It was really cool.
Yeah, and also in Lake Como, that same house has been used in
in a lot of movies.
Yeah, in so many places. In Succession.
As well, yeah.
But yeah, so we didn't spot that. I think that house is slightly further up the lake. Apparently we did pass it, but I didn't see it, so I don't believe them. So transport. We came from Florence, obviously, because we're living here now. So we got the train from Florence to Milan, and then it's a 1-hour train from Milan. You have to stop off in Monza to switch over to go to Como, but it takes about an hour from Milan. So not too bad at all for a lake up the north.
So yeah, any of you wonderful F1 Formula 1 fans, Monza is one of the Grand Prix of Europe. So yeah, Lake Como isn't far away at all. So you could always, do a double trip, go to the F1, spend loads of money, then go to Lake Como with your girlfriend.
And if anybody that rich is listening, please send us some money.
Send us tickets to the F1. I mean money. What?
Well, actually, I'd go to well, no, I wouldn't. I'd go to Lake Como, though.
We'd sell the tickets for profit.
We would, for sure. But yeah, so the boats are, if you listen to our Lake Garda episode, boats are very similar, where there are an awful lot of boats that serve the north part of the lake and then the south part of the lake. And then there's high-speed ones, maybe 5 times a day, that serve the length of the lake. So just bear that in mind.
Lake Como is kind of like a Y shape.
Yes. Well, like an upside-down Y.
Yeah, upside-down Y, sorry.
So we were staying on the bottom-hand side in Como itself. I don't know why we know why we decided to go to Como.
Yes, indeed.
Why did we go?
We went there because my friends were going there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what, you gave me 2 weeks notice?
About that.
Yeah.
About that.
So yeah, Cormac was like, my 2 friends are going to Lake Como. I'd love to go up and meet them. And then I saw how long it would take to get up there. And I was like, Jesus, well, we're at least staying the night. And then when I looked at the prices, which we'll talk about accommodation, I was like, because I thought Como, I'd be like, oh God, this is going to cost us like €250 a night. we're going up for one. But when we saw the price of hotels, I was like, okay, we can do 2 nights in Lake Como.
We can do 2 nights.
We'll be fancy. Piss rain the entire time. But anyway.
Yeah, there was gigantic storms.
Well, that moves us swiftly into accommodation. So we stayed in an Airbnb in Como, just beside the Santa Maria Cathedral.
Yep.
And it was a bit of a scam. We got, and this is a word now that is starting to seep in a little bit into our podcast, which is called, it's from our friend Jeremy, which is, we got Italy'd.
We got Italy'd, yeah. So basically, they had advertised a beautiful apartment in the Airbnb. And what they seem to do basically is advertise the one apartment and book it out to several different people. So
And then give you a double room.
Because our friends picked out the exact same accommodation and decided, we all were like, oh, the pictures are the same, this beautiful apartment.
And we just by chance ended up booking the same thing. So what does happen a lot of the time is that Italy, they will put, so there's never really like a hotel or an Airbnb or a B&B. What they do is they get a half kind of apartment, and they split it out into different rooms, and then they get the best looking room and they take pictures of that, and then they put it on booking.com and Airbnb and Bed and Breakfast Italia. They put it on the whole lot.
So they have like 4 or 5 different rooms, but it's all under one picture.
Yes.
So, and some sites have all the pictures and some sites don't. So it's really effing annoying.
Yes. But we did get slightly scammed. And then when we got there, it turned out that apartment wasn't even in use anyway, because something had broken in it. So we were all put into double rooms. And then they showed us the apartment and we're like, oh no, we're so sorry. We can't give it to you because there's an issue with the shower. They gave us some excuse.
That was the lock for the door.
Oh, the lock for the door wasn't working. Yeah. But they explained that to every single person who checked in. And we only knew that because obviously we knew the other couple who were staying there.
Yeah.
And then a third person came in who was highly annoyed, who was American, and then rang their travel agent and was extremely pissed off because, they were meant to have like a little desk to work at. They wanted to have a kitchen.
But that apartment was over 2 floors, had like a little roof terrace. It was a really beautiful apartment. And then I have to say the double rooms that we got in the end weren't that bad. There was nothing wrong with them. They had their own little private terrace.
Fine, but
yeah, for the price it was fine, but it was just, you get advertised one thing and you get a different thing. It's quite annoying.
Yes. So that was kind of our second or third, or like it was our second time in the span of like about 3 months that we had gotten Italy'd. So we'll cover our other Italy'd moment in a future podcast, but it was just very frustrating. But all in all, the accommodation was clean. It was extremely central. So for the place that we got, it wasn't that bad value, even for the double room with the little terrace that we got. It was €265 for 2 nights, which it wasn't that bad.
No.
And especially for Lake Como, you would think it's going to be a lot more expensive.
Yeah, you'd think that it'd be like the price for one night. So $265 for 2 nights with nice, spacious enough little room. It was fine.
Yeah. So not the worst for Lake Como. So food, again, we only stayed for 2 nights, so we didn't have the most variation in food, and we always ate in Como. So these are just kind of our experiences of eating in restaurants in Como. We stopped off when we first got off the boat.
So yeah, because when you first arrive in the town centre itself, it's about less than a 10-minute walk from the train station. We went up to the Ox Pub and Grill, which is kind of like one of those American style, touristy Italian restaurants.
Yeah.
Very basic. They do your pastas, they do your pizzas, do a little bit of everything. We got some food there. I think we got a pasta each.
Yeah, we got up there. There was a full school tour, so we knew that we were in the right place, that it was going to be kind of cheap.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the food was nice. The staff were good.
Yeah, the views were incredible. Like, this restaurant was right on the shore, so it was like overlooking all the lakes and the hill, and it was absolutely breathtaking views.
And I didn't go mad with the El Caperto, with the El Table Charge.
That was a really good thing as well. When you're just off the train, you want something quick, simple, and it was kind of that very much the high output. Yeah.
Then we did have like one kind of fancier meal there, which was the Platea Ristorante.
So the Platea Ristorante, that was nice. It was fancy, but it was good, nice food.
Yeah, we got a mixture of like pesto pastas.
Yeah.
I think you got a little bit of a seafood thing. It's like got 4.5 stars on a Google review, but I have to say we remember meals that we had over almost a year and a half ago now. And we have, we got it like less than 4 months ago, and we are struggling to remember how good or how bad it was. It was just
we were just, for us now, I sound obnoxious saying it, but because we live in Italy, it was just another restaurant. Do you know, it wasn't, it was nothing absolutely exceptional. There was nothing like to blow us out of the water. It was just another really good place for seafood, for, you know.
But it was like a beautiful table right on the shore.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful setting. And I think it'd be a very romantic setting if you're not used to Italy and if you're in Lake Como and all that.
The food is very good. There's nothing wrong with it. You know, it was very nice. It was just, for us, it wasn't memorable. And that's as simple as. Whereas, as we said, now that we've been living here as well, you know, we like mixing up our cuisines and not always going Italian. So we found this beautiful Lebanese restaurant.
Cheap as well.
Cheap as hell. It was so good. But the food and the hummus, it was called Middle East. And it was just off the kind of main port in Como.
It's right beside the bus station.
Yeah, right beside the bus station. And it was absolutely savage. We got like a whole mixed grill with hummus there, and everything was like barbecued to perfection.
All the naan bread, all the meats, the big platter hummus, the potatoes, spinach. There was more Italians in the Middle East restaurant than there were.
Which we found really funny, because it seemed to be a Lebanese family that ran it, and it was like really authentic, but it was full of Italians.
And super clean. One of the cleanest restaurants I think I've been in all of Italy. One of the cleanest toilets I've been in all of Italy. They had like so many, especially, I don't know why, like it's obviously a very family friendly place as well. Yeah. But they had so much stuff for like babies in the toilet as well. Like they had spare nappies, and like for women they had like sanitary products, and it was just one of those places that I was like, God, this place is run
run very well, like to a high degree of OCD, which was just
our favourite.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
And they were absolutely delighted with us because we wanted to sit outside, even though it was lashing rain, so we weren't taking up a table inside. Yeah. And so they gave us so much naan bread. It was ridiculous.
There was so much food. It was like we could barely walk afterwards. Yeah. It was insane.
But yeah, we got 2 beers, or like 1 beer each. And we got this huge plate of food that took us like almost an hour to finish. And our total bill came to €34.
Yeah.
Which you cannot argue with that.
No way in hell.
So that is definitely, if you go to Lake Como and you end up going to Como at some point.
Yeah.
Just go there. And I think it's open all day. I don't think they do the split shifts either. So.
No, they're just a straight shot throughout the day, which is great as well. Probably why it's so popular.
Yeah.
Moving on to fun, Jane.
So, fun. Will we talk about some things that you can do first? So one of the only things, again, we had a short span of time and we were with your friends from back home. So we were obviously chatting a lot of rubbish.
Yeah.
But we did get on a boat and we decided to go halfway up the lake. It would have taken way too long to get the full way up the lake. It's actually a lot longer because of the long Y shape of Lake Como. It takes a lot longer to get places.
And I think they had, sorry to go across, but I think they had less fast boats than Lake Garda does.
They did, yeah.
So there was only like 2 maybe running a day.
Oh, and the biggest one was that it was high tourist season when we went. We went in June. And so the queues for the boat were absolutely insane. So I would recommend, if you're planning on getting on one of the public boats throughout the day, do go the night before and try and book your ticket, or go early in the morning and book your ticket in advance, because it was bananas, the queues. I didn't think we were going to get on any boat, but we did miss, that was the whole thing. So we missed the high speed boat, and so we got a slightly slower boat, but it wasn't that bad at all. But
the other reason we got that boat as well is because we knew there was a bar.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of the main reason. So yeah, we did ask. The high speed boats don't generally have bars, whereas the kind of slower ones that pull into other towns. So we said, wouldn't it be really nice to just, why don't we just make that our experience? We can sit on the boat, we can have a couple of drinks, we can pull into all these different towns and just see what they look like. And it was mighty crap.
Oh, it was great fun, because the villas along the shoreline are absolutely breathtaking, with all the mountain range in between. it's stunning. And it was really funny because like the main sight on the way up is George Clooney's house. And like all of the tourists were like, oh, there it is, and taking photos of it, which was just kind of a mad thing to see as well. But so, it was stunning.
It wasn't like getting those public boats, I actually think is mighty crack. We were up in the top deck. The four of us were having beers. We were having wine. We were like having the
got a little bit tipsy. It was all good.
It was mighty crack. So I would highly recommend if you go to Como and you're on somewhat of a budget, or if you just want to do something a bit different, you don't want to go on a privatized tour and you don't want to, be walking around. Just jump on the boat for a while.
Take the time out on the day and just jump on the boat, because like they even have a little bit of food on it, food like the pre-made sandwiches and snacks.
Yeah, happy days. So we went up to Varenna, and when we pulled into Varenna, it was beautiful.
It's quite a small town. There wasn't much going on.
About the size of Limone in Garda.
Yeah, for sure.
But we hit it right in the middle of the day. And so there was feck all open.
Yeah.
Nothing was open.
There was like one bar restaurant that we went to. I think that we tried to get food in.
Yeah, weren't doing food. Nowhere was doing food in that whole town. Nowhere was going to be doing food until 7:00. And we had to get the ferry back at 6:45.
We got some small bites that were just like very basic, but they were fine with drinks. And then we just got the boat back. And that was really it. But it was a very cute town. But apparently the towns further north in the lake are really, really beautiful as well. But as we said, without getting the fast boat, it would take you 4 or 5 hours to get all the way up there. And then you have to get 4 or 5 hours all the way back.
Yeah. Now there are different boats that go between Varenna and the other central towns. So if you do decide to go more central, you can bop from town to town there very easily up until very late at night. But because we were staying down the south, we did our last boat back was at 10 to 7. So we didn't want to risk it. We were, we just jumped on an early one, and because nothing was open. So if you are going to do the whole boat thing, I would recommend getting up, going for a huge Italian style lunch, and then just get on a boat and go on the piss for the day.
Yep.
And then rock back to Como and have your dinner.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with that. So the big thing in Lake Como is to go and explore all of the different mansions and castles that are up there. You can go to, it's called Trenazenna. So that's got beautiful gardens all around. I think it's kind of partially a hotel as well, or I think people can actually book it out as a wedding venue. I think a few TikTokers or Instagrammers have booked that out as their wedding venue, which to me is just correct. But there's also the famous Bellagio kind of mansion house hotel-y kind of style there, which obviously the Bellagio, that's what the one in Las Vegas is named after. So yeah, that's a big thing in Lake Como, to just kind of go around to all these different big mansions and dream of living there at some point. The other thing that you can do, which we did in Salerno, is you can hire a boat, like a private boat for yourself. So you can get a wee little boating and jet off, and you can fit up to 6 people crowded, 4 people ideal, 2 people even more ideal.
Yeah.
But you can rent a boat, but the longest stint that you can rent a boat for is about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, which seemed quite short, but it's designed to stay around the area you rent the boat from, so you can't really explore the lake with that option, but you can pack a picnic and maybe a few glasses of wine and go out and enjoy your mates. But it's, I don't know, the options in Lake Garda seemed a lot better, and obviously Salerno and the Amalfi Coast for renting boats seemed a lot better than that. And
also, if you do rent a boat in Lake Como, you're not allowed to go swimming, or you're not allowed to dock anywhere either. So it would just be you getting a boat, kind of, it's almost like getting a pedal boat. But
you're not allowed to get off.
So yeah, that is an option, and it was quite reasonable. I think it was €230 I say quite reasonable. It was €230 for the 3 hours when I looked it up. So split 4 ways, it would have been maybe almost 60 quid a piece.
Yeah.
So as a novelty, maybe that's something you might be interested in doing in Lake Como, but because you don't have the option to swim or to dock or to do anything like that, I just thought it wasn't really worth it.
Yeah.
And that's why we went for the public boats, which cost us about €10.
About €10. That was absolutely brilliant.
And there was beer, and I didn't have to drive.
And also in Lake Como as well, because some of the more hills surrounding the lake than mountains. So it's not as large as Lake Garda. So if you are the adventurous type and you want to hike, there are some stunning views. You can go up hiking. I think that's what my friend did after we left. They went up to one of the hilltops. I'm not sure if there was a cable car for them, but
there's a little cable car
there's a small
in
one
Como
in
that
Como.
brings you up. So yeah, there is a little cable car that brings you up to a teeny weeny little town in Como, and apparently the view is absolutely stunning.
It's breathtaking, apparently, up there. Yeah.
But we were just on a bit of a time crunch, so it was either we get in the boat or we were getting on.
Yeah, I was on my 2 days off from work, and there was no getting a third.
Just a note on transport, and I hopefully will slot this back underneath the transport section of the podcast, but I probably won't because I'll be lazy. Our friends that we met were going to Lake Como for about 4 days and then decided to go to Lake Garda for a few days afterwards. They did not do any research in how to travel between the two lakes. And although they seem quite close on the map, they're not in terms of public transport. So when they were staying in Limone, which is also the far side of Lake Garda. So it would have actually taken them about 8 hours with public transport to get from one place to the other. So what we recommended was that they were actually able to pick up a car in Lake Como, like a Europe car, and they were able to drive just under 3 hours to get to Limone. So if you do have a driver's license, it's very, very doable. And then once you're around Lake Garda, you can drive all around Lake Garda, or you can drive all around Lake Como. So Europcar is all around the lakes. And they were able to then drive back to Milan airport as well and just leave the car there. They didn't have to bring it back to Como or anything like that. But just to bear in mind, do look up the public transport because it can be a little bit tricky around the lakes. Some places are only accessible by boat. They're not accessible by buses or anything like that, or by train.
Yeah.
So just make sure that you look that up. So on our value for money section, we'll just do our tot up of the scores.
Okay, what do you give transport?
Transport, it was very easy and we didn't get delayed. So to get from Florence up to Lake Como, I would give it an 8.5. It was swift. There was no delays. The boats, none of them got delayed, which was incredible.
Yeah, transport-wise, it was very easy considering we've had a lot of other places where we've had struggles. So I agree. I think I'd have to give it an 8.5 as well.
Yeah,
I wouldn't give it any higher. I wouldn't give it any lower.
No, I'd only take the 1.5 off because there wasn't a lot of the high-speed boats.
Yeah,
but obviously the lake is a lot longer. So
but you can plan that in advance anyway. So yes. That's
our accommodation. I would give a 7. Again, it was pretty good value for money, even though we got a bit scammed. But 7 out of 10. Yeah,
I give it a 7 as well. It wasn't what we booked, but we still got a very nice outcome. And as well, it was a very central location in Como, even though it's a small enough town anyway. But we were very lucky. We were like right off a piazza, one of the most famous churches. So
130 quid. You wouldn't think you'd be getting a lovely double room in Como for 130
with the private terrace. It was really lovely. So 7 as well.
The food, I'm going to give it like a 7.5. I know we weren't there the longest to trial all of it, but now that our taste buds are getting more acclimatized. But,
Yeah, I'd definitely give it a 7.5 as well. I think the Lebanese restaurant for us was probably the thing that brings it up.
Yeah.
Everything else, there are some beautiful restaurants. I remember looking up at some menus, a little bit more expensive. But I have to say, for what we got and like what we spent, 7.5 is definitely justified.
Yeah. Fun. I'm going to give it a bit of a low score here. And that's only because, we just released our Lake Garda episode where there's so much choice. When you think about a lake, you think about, there's so many things that you can do in Lake Garda. And Lake Como just doesn't have that. Everything's very privatized. Everything's very civilized. Everything is quite expensive as well. And so apart from eating at beautiful restaurants and walking around, beautiful houses that you can never afford, there's not really that much to be doing.
No.
Definitely don't bring kids there.
No,
there's nothing for kids to be doing. There's nothing for teenagers to be doing, only getting into trouble. So I would give it a 6.5.
Yeah, I think I would give it a 6. I think I would give it a 6 myself. I don't think there's much. Yeah. I wouldn't go back there for fun stuff. Like Lake Garda has so many more options in terms of swimming, water sports. everything else like that. As you said, like it is just to kind of go and look at how the other half live.
Yeah.
And that's great.
I
and
was giving it the extra 0.5 because of Mussolini.
Yeah. So
Um,
yeah, no, I think for fun, it's a very relaxing time. It's very beautiful. You know, it's very much a kind of a wonderland resort in the terms of beauty. But
beautiful honeymoon spot.
Yes, exactly. If you're just looking to chill, then yeah. But for fun and activities, there isn't as much.
Go to Lake Garda instead.
Go to Lake Garda.
But in saying that, the value for money, the fact that we could say that we spent 2 days in Lake Como, which you would think I'd never be able to afford that, I'd never be able to go. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 because there was really affordable meals, really affordable accommodation, and the transport was really affordable as well.
I think I'd probably give it an 8 as well, just going off expectation versus reality. I expected it to be so expensive, and like Lake Como, I've only ever heard of in the breadth of George Clooney and all those celebrities that live there and how much of a tourist trap it is. But it was surprisingly not as bad as people make it out to be.
Yeah, especially just for the value for money.
Yeah.
But,
I wouldn't be going back in a rush, but I have to say, if anyone was going for a honeymoon, as you say, it is a nice place and you can definitely get your value.
Go there for 2 nights and then just go to Lake Garda instead.
Basically, just go to Lake Garda.
Yeah, just go.
But, you know, we're biased. We love Lake Garda.
That gives it an over score of 74.5.
Oh, that's going to be one of the lowest.
It is the lowest.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So, I don't know, maybe we're just getting a bit fussier as our time goes on in Italy. Maybe that's it.
I don't think so, though. No. I think we're getting more refined, more used to Italian living now, where we're just like, yeah, it's grand.
Also, I forgot my hat. I bought a hat specifically for the trip.
She literally called it her Como hat, and she left it in Florence. So, I think if you had the hat with you, it'd probably be like a 78.5.
Yeah, I was very annoyed about that. But
which going out the scoreboards would only bring it up one place. So,
so I don't know. Lake Como, not my favorite. Go to Lake Garda instead. Lake Garda's class. But you know, if you want to pop over there for a day or two, if you're going to the F1.
There you go.
If the missus is annoyed at you after going to the F1,
you can say, hey, let's go to Lake Como and stay there.
Yeah, that'd be ideal.
I'll show you where George Clooney lives.
We're Jane and Cormac. Thanks for listening to our bonus episode on Lake Como. Our next episode is the official final episode of Series 1, and it's all about the island of Ischia. Yes, we're returning to the south. If you liked our podcast, then please subscribe and please give us a 5-star review. It's free and it takes just a couple of seconds. You can follow us on socials at AltLivin, or you can download our Excel sheet with all of our accommodation, restaurant, transport, experience and budget details for our 6-week holiday on altlivin.com.
See you in Ischia.
Bye-bye.